In this new Resource Editor tutorial, we're going to go over taking a PSD, actually a PSD designed to build a website, and converting it into a mobile application. The reason I have a PSD designed for a website and not for a mobile device is that you can find these easily on the internet. This is actually a free design on the internet, and there's a link in the blog to the site where I got this from. And you can essentially take these designs and create really beautiful websites or really beautiful mobile applications, because some of these designs are really applicable for the mobile web. So we're going to use Photoshop. As you can see, it's the most common tool for these. I like the GIMP personally, but for this particular case, you don't really have much of a choice, because GIMP won't open files like these. As you can see, this is the design. I'll zoom out a bit so you can see the whole thing rather than just a portion of it. And it's a clean, nice design that should easily fit to multiple resolutions, although not like this, but the basic UI elements are here. You have headers, footers, various types of components already designed, so you can just start from that point and add things if you need above that. So the Photoshop works on the basis of layers. So for instance, I can remove the header layer like this, or I can remove the background. There's a background texture here that I can remove, might not be obvious in the video. And you use the layers in order to cut images. So I can cut images like this image or that image and tile them appropriately and do all sorts of things. So for instance, if I want to remove the navigation area, which I don't really need, I can just remove that layer and now it's not there. So that way I can essentially cut just a portion here of what I need and effectively get an image without that navigation, which I can later on just tile. So I want this image without the background here, so I can just remove the background, and then I can just do a copy merged, where which essentially copies all the layers that are visible. And now I can create a new image, and it automatically gives it the right size that my buffer here has. So I can say title area, right? And I can just sorry, I needed one thing that I should have done here is select the background to be transparent. That's very important, and just paste it like this. So now I can tile this image and it will appear like a much longer image but take less memory, which is nice. I can then select this area. Now say I don't know the layer that this is in, I can use this tool and have auto select active here. I can just click and it points. This is the logo background, and this is essentially the logo, the entire thing. So this is the logo. I can just turn it off and on to see that I have the right object. Now I can right click it and convert it to smart object, which is a very useful feature in Photoshop, which essentially turns it, as you can see, it unifies everything and turns it into a separate component. And now I can just double click it. Okay, I don't have all the fonts, so it prompts me. And as you can see, this is the component right here. And I can what's that? That one I didn't want. I don't know why that didn't appear earlier. Not a big Photoshop expert, as you can see. And I can now crop the image by removing the trim. It's essentially by removing unused pixels, but there aren't any. There are probably shadows and things like that. And this logo is ready for saving as it is. I can just save it as a PNG, and it will just place it in my application, and it should work nicely because I want it with the text, because text like this would be really hard to reproduce on a mobile device. Sometimes I might want to remove the text, in which case I can probably just do something like this and cut it appropriately on the resource editor. So as you can see, I don't need this back, but I do need this back. Let's restore the background so we can see more easily. Now, the next element we might want, besides that, is the background itself. As you can see, we have the white background, which is pretty easy to do in LWUIT. And another part that we have is the textures in the background. So the texture is, the easiest thing is to just remove everything. Probably a simpler way to do it than the one I chose, but that's the way I chose it. I'll keep the background because otherwise the texture would be impossible to see. And now we'd want to cut a portion of it. Now, as you can see, I zoomed in so the texture would be more obvious because it's a bit hard to see at the lower resolution there. And we need to pick an area where the texture repeats, and the diamond here is probably as good an area as any to use as a center for selection. So I'll pick the tip of the diamond right here and start the selection until the top of the next diamond below. Since the texture repeats, it's pretty easy to find such an area, something like this maybe, or maybe not, maybe that's too small. Yeah, that's too small, I think. We need something a bit larger. Let's see. Here we go. Here's the top of the diamond. And that's probably okay. And now we can just cut out this portion. So I'm going to just copy again this specific texture and just paste it into a new transparent image. And now we have the background. It's barely visible, but it's there. So I can restore everything back into place and zoom back out. And now we can just cut out similar components like this. So for instance, we have the images here, although for a mobile device I'd rather have square, smaller images like they have in the bottom here. These are probably best for a mobile device, although depending on which device, obviously. So I'm going to cut these out. They seem very useful. Let's look at this. It's probably, this is the entire thing, and this is a particular thumbnail. Exactly what I want. So right click. No, just maybe like this. And now we just do the convert to smart object as before, and opening it. And now we have this image which we can essentially save and later on cut it into a 9-part border, as we saw in some other tutorials and we'll do here again. And we can do that for this as well, which is a very useful component, but since it's the same process, I'd like to show the buttons because this is a very common thing that people do. Here's the button. So all I need to do is convert it to a smart object and edit it. And here we don't have the text already, but this is just a plain button which we can lighten and darken appropriately if we want in order to create the effect of pressed and released. So here we have essentially all the basic components, and in the next part of the tutorial I'm going to show you how I build a UI that's based around these components and some others that I'll just cut out myself, and we can continue from that point on.